My name is Cameron Patterson and I'm a birth mother. In 2015, I turned 20 years old and I met a guy that I had always been interested in. We engaged in a relationship and we'd hang out all the time. And one night I had gone out drinking with my friends. We ended up taking Xanax and I somehow wound up at his apartment. In that moment, I was shocked, but I was also kind of, like, oh, this happened. And when I got home that day, I immediately started feeling kind of different. About 2 weeks later, I did not have my period. I took the test, it immediately came back positive, and I called a friend because I didn't want to tell my parents. And my friend told me that I could have an abortion, that there was time. I was not okay with having an abortion. It was something that I didn't believe in, something that I didn't even think I was capable of doing. He was also in a really bad place. So it was really unorthodox and really, I just had no other options if I wanted to raise that child financially. And the only option besides keeping the child or leaving it with my parents was to have an adoption. I was very encouraged by the Piedmont Women's Center and the fact that they didn't make me feel shamed or make me feel like an outcast for being pregnant, out of wedlock at 20 years old, not with my life together. I think I had just quit smoking cigarettes and I was just honestly a total train wreck when I came to them. But they gave me vouchers for clothes to wear. They gave me, if I wanted to keep the baby, they were gonna help me with diapers and things like that. Then, since I was 3 months along, they were able to do a ultrasound. So that was the first time that I heard my daughter's heartbeat. It was real. In that moment, it was really real. So I started meeting with this lady and from day one, I knew that I wanted to go with her. I didn't feel the corporate vibe that I felt from these other adoption agencies that wanted me to place out of state and possibly do a closed adoption. And once they booked me into an actual labor and delivery room, it's when I really started to feel like maybe I don't want to do this, maybe I do want to do this, but I know that I started to feel that connection towards the child. So we went to the hospital. It was actually a snow week, so my mom had to drive really slow, and I'm just really in pain in labor. I'd been in labor for 9 hours. And once they booked me into an actual labor and delivery room, that's when it really hit. That moment when I had her, she had to rest on my shoulder or on my chest for 30 minutes to an hour. And it was something changed in that moment. I felt like a transformation. I passed her off to the adoptive parents and getting to see them hold her because they're not able to have children. I wanted to keep her. I didn't want her the entire pregnancy. And then in that moment, I realized I wanted her. And I whispered into my mom's ear and I said, I don't want to do this. But I had to do it. I didn't have to do it, but I wanted my daughter to have a life that was worth living and that wasn't going to be depressing and that was going to be financially stable, and she was going to have a father, because if she had stayed with me, she wouldn't have had a dad. And I knew how important it would be for a young girl to have a father. And that was the number one reason I chose to place Bethany for adoption. Like the nurse had said, it's hard to be attached to something you know you have to give up, but there's also this sense of guilt because you're not the one that's taking care of her needs. I didn't know how to calm her down, how to make her stop crying, how to feed her, how to hold her head, how to wrap her up in a blanket. I didn't know any of that, but the adoptive mother did. The last thing that I did before leaving was I had to sign my rights over. I made a hard decision to give my daughter to somebody else. It doesn't get easier. There are days where I just can't get out of bed and I just cry because I miss her. When she cries, she doesn't cry for me. When she asks for food, she doesn't ask for it from me. When she wants milk or when she wants comforting, she doesn't want it from me. She wants it from the adoptive mother. And That's really hard. It's just as she reaches milestones in her life, her first birthday, I didn't get to bake the cake, I didn't throw the party, I didn't get to, pick out the decorations or pick out her dress. I could only bring her presents, and I could only bring my presents. I decided that I needed to make some type of change. Without the help of, the Piedmont Women's Center and their encouragement thread, I wouldn't have been able to do this. Working with the Piedmont Women's Center to find a fit for the adoption agency, I was able to place my daughter with a Christian family that carried the same morals and values as myself. Upon finding out you're pregnant unexpectedly, you have many options. My choice was to choose life, and I chose adoption because I knew I couldn't provide my daughter with what I wanted her to have. I'm really excited to see what the family that I chose for my daughter and that God chose for my daughter will do to help her succeed in her life as well.